no matter what it is.
And it's the only drug, like I said before, it's the only drug that
Jeanette
exists.
said, "Who's not drinking right now? Y'all bugging." She said, "Top of the morning." Sean said, "Cheers."
Girl, shut the up.
Oh man, but so anyway, this gentleman, and then we're gonna bring our first guest. He leaves his girl. They move in. She's making a lot of money, but she's strapped because of the house and everything like that. She has two grown sons. One is 29 and one is 27. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try and fast forward to he moves in. He has a plan. He's cutting the grass with two grown ass men who are living there, 29 and 27.
Okay.
He's taking care of everything. Right. Right. He then proceeds to say, they're 29 and 27. They need to start paying rent. That's why you're financially strapped. But they need to start paying rent. So he goes 800 a piece. They're 29. Now, if you move out by yourself, you already know you ain't paying no 800. But for some reason, when you're paying 800 to stay at the crib, that's a lot of money.
That you already live. Yeah.
But if you go to the streets, if somebody says, I'm going to give you a place to live at 800 at a nice place, you're cool with it. So I'm going to play here. I'm going to try and fast forward to where he gets to it, because it's a good story. It's a good story, but I already know. Here we go. And then I'm going to get your opinion. Here we go.
Woman, sometime many years ago.
Here we go. I'll get to the drama.
And to live in this general area, the average one bedroom is probably about $1,600. So she says, I'm gonna tell him $500. I said, no problem. Not a problem whatsoever. Mind you, I'm doing everything around the house. Anything that's broke, I'm fixing. I'm cutting the grass while we got two grown ass men upstairs just playing video games. So one day we eating, and she tells them, listen, I think it's time for you guys to start paying rent. They start going crazy. They wasn't disrespectful with curse words, but they was like, nah, this is some bull crap. Ever since you start dating him, all these rules and regulations and all this other stuff, it's just not fair, Mom. It's just not fair. And she didn't defend me in any aspect. She was like, let me just review, let me just go back to the drawing board. And just seeing how she humbled herself made me say, this ain't the queen for me, because my queen would have stood up for me, and my queen would have stood up for herself. And that's the reason why I got the hell on. And that's for everybody that's in church that kept asking me.
All right, so that's his reason. Let's bring in the financial rebel. Let's bring the financial rebel in this. Hopefully he's the financial rebel's in the building. He's in the building. Yes, he is.
Morning.
Live on the day.
So yeah. So and for those who see the title, was integration the answer to the problem? We're gonna get to that at 8:00. So please, if you're new here and that's the reason why you tapped in, we're gonna get to it. I'm waiting for both our panelists to come on before we get to it. But for now, Don Johnston, what up? So he left because he put the idea out there. The mom fell back and said, let me rethink this. And he basically was like, oh, I got to get out of here. Because if that's all it took for you to humble yourself, and we just had a long discussion about this, and all it took was for your 29 and 27-year-old grown-ass men to push back. If that's all it took, I got to go. Now, mind you, the relationship was doing well. I want to give this a balanced thing. The relationship was doing to the point where, not that the church people mean everything, but everybody in the public saw how they vibed. And they were like, y'all were beautiful together. So financial rebel. First, I'll let you. What's your opinion? Was he wrong to leave? Because that's all. At the end, he just goes, was I wrong to leave? Was he right to leave? What's your opinion?
Why are you starting shit first thing in the morning, man?
Hey, we gotta get it. We about to get into some real shit.
It's my coffee yet. Y'all was talking about liquor. Now oh man. What? So first of all, was it really your soulmate?
I don't know. Don't answer a question with a question, because now I feel like I'm talking to my ex-wife. Don't now I feel like I'm talking to Kim.
Don't have a trauma response on me, right? But really, it said it was a soulmate. So how is this person your soulmate and y'all ain't figured out the kid yet? So to me, it makes me feel like all this social media shit is just skits. None of it's real. But I'm not trying to end the fun. I swear.
But this is real, because Jay Black went through this when he was regulating the cereal. He was regulating the cereal at his house, and his daughter couldn't stand Jay Black for things like that.
No, but they were his children.
No.
Yeah, yes.
What are you talking about? Bonus? The bonus?
They were bonus. They were bonus.
Yeah.
His
Wife's
children.
Still mine, yeah.
But that was the situation that this gentleman was in. He was moving in, and there are people.
The voice.
They are people who are moving in, that have to move in, that somebody already has kids that are going to be your bonus kids. Like, if I have a relationship with you, I'm taking responsibility. So was he wrong for her falling back?
No, he wasn't wrong. But oh man, again, I'm sorry, I'm nitpicking. Soulmate. How the hell y'all soulmates? There's no relationship with the kids, or you just making it up?
Well, that could be simply because the men were 27 and 29. So technically, I don't see if my mom were to move on, I would respect it, but we're not going to be cool. Like, we're going to be cordial. We're going to be like, what up for a while, and then you're not going to be.
Nah, but LaShawn D said it. He said they're 27 and 29. They grown ass men. We got a bunch of baby boys running around here.
There you go.
I mean, like, that's why I'm like, this can't be real. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Leave that up there,
you couldn't live in a house. If I know you got grown kids, two grown men living in the same house, and I'm paying all these bills, and we're a partner, we're a union. They're not helping cutting the grass. They're not doing nothing but spending up money, playing video games. How are you holding your weight? Like someone said earlier, if you're not saving to get out, what are you doing? You need to pay something. Like something got to give. So I couldn't be with that lady that's allowing that, because it's going to cause friction. So you deciding to deal with this? Cool.
I'm saying, listen, I agree with you. I listen. Y'all don't know this. I believe in multi-generational living. I've talked about it before as it relates to Black community. But everybody got pulled their weight. Mom shouldn't be cutting no grass. Mom shouldn't be shoveling no snow. Mom shouldn't have to carry groceries, right? There's just certain things you should have to do. But yeah, they're like, yeah, Jay's regulating cereal. Wasn't she a teenager though? We talked about this before.
No, she wasn't a teenager. She was young. Under 10, I think, like 7.
Yeah, so how y'all compare the 10-year-old to a 27 and 29-year-old? It's not the same thing.
No, but my thing is, there are people. It's hard to get out and live by yourself out here in the 20s.
I agree, but I would also say, Mom, what was Mom doing when they were 10 and 12? Were they shoveling snow then? Like these miscreants don't just pop up. They were created. They were nurtured in that way. They were molded in that way to be these irresponsible, lazy ass people. They didn't just pop out that way. All right.
No, I agree with you. And listen, I'm not gonna jump down parents' throats, because I know a mom ain't no such thing as bonus kids after 21. They're refugees.
Hey, pull up Don Johnson's thing.
This is exactly why most men won't get into these types of relationships. The wife is always going to protect them, no matter how old they get. And yesterday, when we had this conversation about putting kids first before the actual relationship, and I also said yesterday, keep that right there. I also said yesterday, be very careful when I know relationships ain't supposed to be about this. Be very careful when your name ain't on the mortgage. Be very careful when your name ain't on the lease.
Now, John Johnson said, I would never move into a space where other grown men live at. I think most men, let me back up. All real men believe this. It's got to be their space. It's a very temporary situation, and that's an extreme. But no, I'm not living with no grown ass kids that I didn't raise.
There was some comments. Oh, here goes Asha. If their sons are acting like that at this age. They've been acting that way, which is basically what this is
Not
not new. I do agree a lot of this stuff on social media is for likes and views and paychecks. But this I've seen this go on personally. I've seen this.
Okay.
But there are some comments that say that wasn't enough for him to just leave. But I don't think that's another thing. I can never tell somebody that wasn't enough for you to leave. So it's her for a man to use it.
As a man, anyway.
You can't be masculine and have a soulmate? Is that a new thing?
And I want to tell you other thing about this soulmate thing. Let me tell you about this soulmate thing. A soulmate doesn't mean that it's going to work.
So was it really a soulmate though?
It can be. You can have a connection with somebody and then understand that this soulmate is not the soulmate for you to be, for that person to be your wife. My young kids will come first, period. Grown children need to contribute, period. Okay, Sean, all right, got you. But I think everybody believes that a soulmate automatically means, bam, there's just something about this person. There's a connection that is deep, but that doesn't mean we're supposed to be man and wife. Because it takes a lot more to be man and wife. There's a soulmate might be something where you guys are so close, but you also know there's certain things that you stand on that you will not bend on. And if there's certain things that you won't bend on in a relationship, may end it. Exactly. This behavior didn't just start. You don't leave a good relationship / wife over your grown sons. Well, some people said you never pick anybody over your kids. I question all the men involved.
Facts. But can we have a real question though? Because I see a lot of people saying my kids are always going to come first.
Yeah, it's a lot of people who think that.
So at what point do you say I'm going to be serious on getting married and it's going to be man and wife, husband and wife, and then the kids? Now, if you have the right husband, the husband will put the women, the husband will put the women, I'm messing up, y'all. I got to finish my coffee. A real man is going to put the kids in proper order and provide for them anyway. So do we have to do that, or is that necessary to put them first?
See, I think we had this whole thing yesterday, and just real quick, let me just go back and show one of the clips from yesterday that we played, because it's ironic. I didn't think it was going to go into this, but no. It's not your fault. It's just it's irony. I didn't even think this was going to get to that, but let's see if this is one of the clips we played.
Children are not the priority. Your marriage is. I got a text message last week from a couple who I had met with. They took a picture in a restaurant and they had their hands on the table. They said, Sean, thank you for reminding us today. We have no idea how we've neglected dating each other for the last 17 years.
And he was talking about dating, but then there's another one who actually had his he was more,
I need some liquor.
That coffee and liquor, that's what he's sipping on.
No, this is coffee.
Husband chose wife first. All right, let's go to this one.
My two girls, like there is no tomorrow. But here's what my girls know. They can never replace their mama. Their mama's always first. Even though they are my blood and she is not, she's always first. Always. I'll never choose my girls over my wife.
Now, a lot of people, when somebody says that, a lot of people get taken aback. My wife comes first. I create new kids.
I can create new ones.
I can create new kids.
I love it. Brooklyn always got something interesting to say with Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, putting your husband first is putting the kids first. If you have to choose, it means you can't pick the right. Okay, I got it.
I agree with that 1,000%.
Now I agree with all this, but the intricacies of this situation is that you just got here.
No. I do want to, let's back up though, because I do see a lot of ladies who bring their man in day one and they put him first. They're not married.
That's what I said.
And so no, that's not what we're talking about.
So I want on behalf of this woman, whether she's real or not real, on behalf of the women in this situation, I can't relate, but I do feel compassion, Because if you and your kids have been through what you've been through for 29 years, starting in 27 years, and then somebody's been here for 2 or 3 years and starts trying to lay down a hammer, this is a predicament I don't want to be in. Because in his point of view, they're lazy for not doing this and this and that, but that's been how the house has gone.
Can I ask the question?
What?
This is woman, this is lady, this is soulmate. Why they not at his place?
Well, and that's why I didn't want to play the whole thing, because he had a smaller house. So what he did was he sold the house, and then they split the money. He split the money with her, and they took the money to actually get the situation because she was strapped. So he took so everything he did in his story was basically, look, I'm really all in on this. Craig said, I told my daughter stay home, no rent. We paid for her schooling, and she could graduate with zero debt. The plan worked, and she built a 780 credit score along the way. I don't have a problem with it, Craig. Like I can't see me charging my daughter to stay with me. I just wouldn't. But that's just me.
But I do believe, man or woman, people do have to learn how to pull their weight.
Mm.
You got to teach that early. And the only way you're going to teach financial responsibility is by making them see that shit cost. Period.
Mm.
So as a 27 and 29-year-old grown man, you know that. You know you ain't contributing to the household. You know.
Oh, you want your...
No, I'm just saying, like, for those two sons, that's 27 and 29, they know. Mom got a new dude. He's taking care of everything.
I wouldn't feel right being 27 or 29. Even if I was 27 or 29 at home with my mom, and I'm not contributing. And I'm not
coming in. He messing it up for us. We got to get him out of here. Mom was good. Now she trying to ask us for $800 a month because this Negro, nah, this ain't it. He's the problem. That's how they're looking at dude. He's the problem. So he said, I'm going to remove myself.
I mean, this is like a whole episode of Baby Boy.
And it worked out. It worked out. Baby Boy stayed. The dude stayed. Vin Rain stayed. It worked out.
You picking me over? You picking him over me? I'm your own son.
Yes, don't throw them to the wolves. Show them a little responsibility. Yeah, I understand. Listen, I've hustled my whole life. My dad's never asked for a red cent from me. But by his example, he showed me, understand your responsibility is when it's your turn to be the head of the household, because it will be your turn. For me, this is the example I was shown. You're not asking something from your kids. You're teaching them to go get their own. I've never paid a red cent. Now I've helped. I've given. Sometimes large amounts, sometimes, but it wasn't something that I was told. I just learned by watching him that, so my job in the future is, which for mental health sake, it may not have been the best. My job for the future is you take care of everything and everybody, basically you feed everybody. And everybody's going to help because my mom definitely helped. But my dad told me the example, it's you. So when you get ready to get out there, understand it's going to be you. And so I would never charge rent, but I get the concept. Like I understand the concept. I'm not against that. Rebel, financial contribution. You have to go everywhere else in the world and pay, restaurant, movie, the mall. What makes people think you don't have to pay where you lay? Well, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong.
I guess it's here too, Mike.
Every household is different, right? But here's the thing. You have to teach these things early.
Yeah, you do.
Listen, I could have stayed with my mother and not paid a cent. But my mother didn't raise me that way. My father didn't raise me that way. I would have done something. And I definitely would have took the trash out and cut the grass.
Absolutely. Right? No, absolutely. I can't. And that was the thing with my dad was like, I don't care what you do, but you can't stay. You got to go out and get something.
Right.
You go out and get something. Just make sure it's legal, but go out and get something. Right, Major. Family gonna have to.
We're about to go on the Trump thing because somebody already said explain how Trump's thing. So before you even get in that, you got our other guests here. I know we pivoting. You want to hit on your topic?
Amazon was here almost every day until I scooted her out. Her name was Amazon. Okay, scooted her out the door into our rental property. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, all right. All right, then I'll read this last one. I was taught you can't live anywhere for free, not even with family. You have to contribute, period. Well, it doesn't always have to be contribute financially, but I get it. All right, y'all. So you see the title was Integration, the Answer to the Problem. This can go in 12 different branches. I can only give my humble opinion on this. That's why I brought Financial Rebel, and that's why I also brought our homie professor at Temple University. Has been talking, been an activist since I remember when he was rapping, when he was just trying to get on in hip hop. He was an activist. He's somebody who's always talked this talk, whether we were at Club Adrenaline, Club Evolutions, or we're sitting in the studio and just having a conversation. This has been consistent. I can stand by and co-sign that this is not something he does for likes or views. I don't even think he's on social media. That's not something he's done to collect a check, even though obviously he's getting paid as a professor at Temple. This is something he's been passionate about since day one, since the youngin' days. All right. Dr. Aaron Smith is in the building, y'all. Dr. Aaron Smith is in. Hold on, let me get my applause. Let me get my applause. Let me do it right. Let me do it.
This man got like 8.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
He's the doctor. He's doctor. Yeah, doctor. Yeah, we can hear you.
On his name.
Yeah, we can hear you. Say something again.
I think I got the wrong mic set up though.
Oh, with the
yeah,
settings.
we hear you without the mic. I don't think we hear you within the mic, so you might not be able to, but we hear you.
How about now?
I mean, we can hear you. I just don't think it's coming through the microphone, but you sound clear, but it's not coming through the microphone. So you might want to go to your audio settings and see if you got that on.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna play this clip while we waiting for him, and
All
this
right.
is where it all came from. Trevor Noah. All right, play this.
This applies to America, and then maybe it'll go to other places in a different way because Finland ties in. Do you think that integration was the right move? Like, and now I'm separating two things because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there was segregation, and I go, yeah, no, I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away, because I'll put myself out personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about, and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think the part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
It's very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with Black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibe mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe on the other side of what American of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial when if you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like those are within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that? And so part of it is to question what we're being invited into.
All right, so quickly, and I'm going to get to everybody. I'm going to start with Dr. Aaron Smith, but I just want to say this. It's very easy in hindsight to break something down. It's very easy to look back and be like, before, and I'm saying that because I know the comments and I know what comments are going to come up. We realize that. That's why we're just having a discussion about it. I realize it's easy to look back now and go, we should have done this. We should have. If I could go back, I should have never drank and I would have been a movie star. So, I mean, it's easy to say that. So, Dr. Aaron Smith, the question, was that the right solution? Was integration the right solution?
No, but there's still time to be a movie star.
You got time, Mike. You got time. Yeah, we still here. We still outside. Shout out to my brother too. Shout out to Choir. I ain't seen you in a minute.
We were just together, so good seeing you again, man.
Well, then, not like this though.
Right. Yeah, correct.
And somebody else's thing doing their thing, Nah, but it's good to see everybody. Notably, Dr. King said something similar when he reflected on his efforts toward the end of his life and said he felt like he was integrating us into a burning house, right? That's one of the most popular manifestations of that perspective in real time. But I think most importantly, I tell my students all the time, I think a lot of people make mistakes when they assume people like them that don't. Like, let's not over politicize and make it extra deep. Everybody's been in a situation where they've been friends or in a relationship with somebody who did not have their best interest at heart, and it usually ends horribly. People get manipulated, they get used, they get exploited. They find out that people are callous and sometimes maniacal after a breakup, a divorce, whatever case may be. They're like, yo, I never thought that it would be like this. No matter what we went through, this is a whole nother level. And I compare it to a toxic relationship. If somebody says, I don't want to be around you, don't call me, I don't like you, right? I'm going to enslave you. I'm going to do convict leasing. I'm going to do Jim Crow. I'm going to lynch you. I'm going to castrate you. I'm going to do segregation. I'm going to buck break you. I'm going to have racial covenants to make sure you can't buy houses. I'm going to redline you. I'm going to do a medical apartheid and experiment on you. Like James Marion Sims, the father of gynecology, used to lease out African-American women and then cut into them with no anesthesia. Like, I'm going to use you. I'm going to use your cells like Henrietta Lacks. I'm going to make sure that your children can't go to school. We'll burn schools down and close schools before we let you attend schools with us. I'm going to make sure that we have the Homestead Act and give billions of dollars in land and wealth and reparations to even people who own slaves. But I'll still in 2025 debate whether you deserve a single dollar. I'll look at you and tell you a million times, a million ways, I don't like you. But still, you want to come over and talk about it. That's why people like us in African American studies, and shout out to my brother because I seen the books in the background. I know that we part of the gang. Whenever I see books in the background, I say okay, because I know that that historical context, it makes you well aware of who likes you and who doesn't, and you can just move accordingly. Because I have family members that are shocked every day about these stories, and I'm like, what are you still shocked for? It's like the girl with the black eye talking about y'all don't understand him. He loved me. Y'all just don't know how he like. No, I see your eye. I look at the executive orders. They don't like you. They not like us, and they don't.
Jump in real quick. I gotta give it hard. He brought that home. He brought that home.
We have it all off.
Yes.
Financial Rebel, your answer to the question was integration the solution to the problem?
The sermon, Dr. Man, y'all want me to come after this man, this genius?
Yeah.
But no, listen, I do read a lot. What I would say to that question is integration never happened. And I know what Dr. King said, that I fear I've integrated my people into a burning building. But after all this stuff, what Dr. Smith said, they don't like us, they not like us, has always been true. So after quote unquote integration, what do the schools look like? Because that's where this all started, right? It was supposed to be about fair and equal. To get books. Kids are in dirt floor schools, better conditions for schools. That never happened. Me and Jay are relatively from the same neighborhood in Philadelphia, right? Some people call it uptown, my area, whatever you want to call it. There's not many white people that live in that area. Now, you would say it was quote unquote integrated because that's the buzzword.
Right.
But nobody talks about white flight because folks got the hell out of there because they didn't want to be around us. Because the propaganda, the eugenics, or the pseudoscience said that black folks were inferior. So, I mean, listen, I looked up the lady. She's a professor over at Princeton. Her name is Rua Benjamin. She's a professor of African American studies. And I really don't like talking about clips because this was a whole podcast.
Right, exactly.
Context, just to put it out there. But just that question alone, I say integration never happened. Yes, we're online. We're together now. We've got some things. But the root problem has always been there. It's still there. It's going to continue to be there, especially with this new administration.
Jay Black, do you have the D.L. Hughley clip?
thought DL was just babbling, but yeah.
DL, honestly, when I listen to DL, I think he kind of.
I don't think he was babbling.
No, I don't think it was babbling at all. But go ahead, play
He's
DL.
the
This is DL.
stupidest thing I've ever. And first off, I've heard enough from South Africans this year. That's enough. I'm like between Elon Musk and Trevor. I don't need to hear about race from two dudes from South Africa. I heard enough. Black schools and HBCUs and our system exists. And she could have said that virtually about every system that exists in America, from policing to banking to housing. Every single one is inundated with white supremacy. All of it. So, and the thing that I find that I resent the most is that our story always starts in the middle. HBCUs came as a result of what we couldn't have. Everywhere we live, every black neighborhood is where we were told to live. Everywhere. Even school, like they want integration some places. I bet you want it in the Super Bowl, because without black people, that shit would be rugby. So it's an interesting conversation to have, except that I think the outcome, I mean, where she lands is a bit disingenuous. It's specific. You can't just talk about education, because the only reason you get educated is to indoctrinate, is to be involved in those other systems.
My understanding was one of the underlying reasons why it was so important to integrate schools is because black schools were grossly underfunded.
And still are.
But by integrating, you're creating more of a level playing field where everybody's in the same school.
It should be the same.
What happened was whatever schools white kids could go to, when black kids started going there, they left and they took their resources with them. So they in fact became, look at every school, look at all the schools we go to that at one time, integration meant that we could come, and they left. Not only did they leave, they took their resources. So this notion that integration ever existed was wrong. White flight happened as soon as the integration started. And with them, they took their resources. So we still, in effect, have virtually the same thing.
All right. So
my part, I don't just play DL.
Yeah. That's why I definitely wanted to. That's why I wanted to play it all the way to the end, because he definitely, you guys had a similar look on that. I want to ask you, tell me if this is naive when I say it. When black and brown people decide that they want to improve life for themselves, for their people, it's automatically called segregation. But when others do that, it's just called improving their circumstances. And I always bring things back to like sports. When sports teams get together, they say, we do what's best for the team. And everybody applauds that. They say they do what's best for the team. But when people in real life do what's best for people who look like them, then it's called, you guys are segregating. And you got, instead of just saying it's improving. Am I missing something? Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, it's a clear double standard. I think an important distinction in the conversation is the difference between social integration and economic integration.
Okay.
Two very different things. So when people just say integration, sometimes it lacks vital nuance for people to really engage the conversation effectively, because there's points and realities about the historiography that we agree on in terms of what happened. When D.L. Hughley is saying what happened, that's not a disagreement. He's stating facts. The difference is when people are fighting to be at lunch counters and to be on buses versus working together and sharing businesses. To use a sports analogy, you got people like Rube Foster from the Negro Leagues, who had no problem doing business with the National Baseball League. He just wanted the Negro teams to stay intact and play against the white teams and make one large league where we could still do business, have bus drivers, have hotel workers, have umpires, and have an entire industry that we had as the Negro Leagues. But he called it picking apart like a carcass. And he ended up in an insane asylum and dying broke. This is the metaphor for Black America, where it's like people aren't arguing about being next to anyone. People aren't arguing about doing business. We fully understand how to grow an economy, and more people participating is better. That's economics 101. So nobody's being hateful. It's just a lack of nuance in the analysis, where it turns into a debate of whether we should be around them or not, or whether they want to be around us or not. It's deeper than that. If you are doing more to accommodate people's insecurities than you are to stop them from acting out of their insecurities, then we're continuing to center white fragility in a way that doesn't advance anybody's interest as, you know, a diverse population. Even today, with diversity, equity, inclusion, we see people catering to insecure, you know, xenophobic people, as opposed to just addressing that issue and saying, stop being like that. And Black people were so aware of white people's insecurity and propensity for violence that we knew that the safest way that we can ensure our children having a fair shot was to be next to that white child, because they were so adamant about only giving that white child opportunity and adequate funding and adequate resources. So it was almost a practical, strategic, rational response to dealing with violent, irrational people. And they still ran away.
The comment, that's an excellent. The comment before Brooklyn. Put the comment before Brooklyn, because
the one right before Brooklyn.
Yeah, the team is America, not a race of people. Who wants to touch on that?
No. Yeah, thank you. My gosh. Claude Anderson, author of Powernomics, right? And Dirty Little Secrets. He said that race is a team sport, and the only person playing the everybody game is Black people. That's why you have a Chinatown. That's why you see all this support and billions for Ukraine. That's why you have AIPAC, the Jewish lobby, with a non-negotiable if you don't defend Israel's right to exist. That's why you have an LGBTQ community that if you don't support same-gender love, they don't support you. It's a non-negotiable, non-starter. They're playing for their team and they know the rules and they're on code. That's why you have women who talk about Roe v. Wade being overturned and the right to control their bodies. Everybody has their interest, their agenda, and they're playing for their team and in their best interest. The only people talking that everybody kumbaya nonsense before they even recognize the importance of playing team and family politics is us. Wake up.
Bars. Y'all wanted Dr. Smith? He's here.
Oh, he's problem.
I love it.
Because that's nonsense. Do you realize? Think about it this way. The conversations we're having about these executive orders, think about how silent the Asian business community has been, because it doesn't matter to them. You haven't seen one Chinatown talk about what was Trump doing. They don't care, because they're self-sufficient and self-sustaining. They've already been excluded and they've already been treated bad enough to know we ain't going to be singing and doing too much marching. We're going to get our money together. We're going to buy up stuff and we're going to work amongst ourselves and improve our situation and do for self. And that's what Chinatowns all over America and all over the world do. That's why you don't see them outside crying about what Trump is doing with his pen.
Nor do you see that in the Jewish communities either.
Exactly. So why wouldn't we do the same thing as communities who have received reparations? 2 communities we just named received reparations. They got their just due, because they weren't so busy thinking about everybody else that they couldn't get land and money and everything else. And executive orders passed when they was knocking out some Asian people just a couple years ago. They made Biden sign a damn executive order within a month.
ASAP.
Meanwhile, what executive order did we get? We had 8 years of Obama. Let me not do that. We need to play team politics at least as much as everybody else is. You telling me you're not as interested in your own self-preservation and uplift as other people, and you're at the bottom of every metric in terms of quality of life in America, whether it's health, whether it's finance, whether it's education. You're at the bottom of everything, and you don't want to look out for yourself while other people are doing that and telling you that you should be the one kumbaya? Wake up, brother. You're in a sunken place.
Brooklyn. Brooklyn
they got ICE out on the street right now telling you who's an American. You talk about the team is America. Okay, go out with the wrong skin tone or the wrong name or have a little accent and then tell somebody. Do you realize that between the steel workers who got gut punched and got Trump's promises, you realize the cops who watched the January 6th rioters get freed after they were responsible for the deaths of at least 3 police officers directly and indirectly? Do you realize that these Latinos for Trump that went out there and just said, we feel like we got tricked, right? Everybody is waking up. If you were asleep a month ago, even the dumbest, most lost person about the realities of America and what they mean when they say co-ed, when they say American and all American doesn't include you. You must be new to the country, brother. But here, let me give you an African-American, foundational Black American wake-up call, because we've been trying to give it to a lot of y'all people that immigrated since the 80s for the last three decades, and y'all didn't believe us. But now you waking up. Now you see that trying to be next to white and trying to act like white people and hate on Black people and vote against your interests is smacking you in the face, and you're all effing around and finding out. And that's why we're sitting back and laughing, and you haven't seen Black women come in to save the country like they did the last 100 years.
Brooklyn's comment: how many people realized Black Wall Street was in Tulsa, wasn't killed off by the attacks? They rebuilt it strong as ever when it died. It died because of integration. Everyone went to the white stores. Didn't know that.
That's true. And if you read the book, there's a great book by A.J. Gastons that everybody should read called, it's about A.J. Gastons called Green Titan. And if you don't know who A.J. Gastons is, he had insurance companies, hotels, all kinds of stuff. He bailed Dr. Martin Luther King out of jail. He said, his hotels died because people left and they went to white hotels. So there's some truth to that.
There's some truth to it, but the one point of correction: they did not build back Tulsa, Oklahoma, stronger than ever. In fact, if you Google the Tulsa, Oklahoma survivors of Black Wall Street, a few of them are over 100 years old. They were just denied, like in 2024, reparations from the house being burned down. So they did not go back and get their houses and their money and their businesses. And I don't think people realize we're talking about people who had planes and oil fields and factories and 3 to 4 theaters and 50 to 200 stores. Like, they didn't rebuild that. Like, but the point that is the larger point is correct, that people did abandon insulated, self-sustaining Black economic structures for social integration, and we did lose what little we did have. But I don't want to mislead the people, and I make a point of correction and say we didn't rebuild Black Wall Street.
Go back to Jasmine's comment. Go ahead, Fan. Go ahead.
That's spot on, and I appreciate that, right? Because I don't want to be insensitive. There was a build back, but how can you ever come back from all that trauma?
And it was in the 90s when they recognized it,
Right, yeah.
They weren't even acknowledging that it happened. There were people who grew up in Tulsa that did not know why it was so white. They literally just grew up there thinking, well, Black people need to get it together. They didn't know that their grandfather had ran out all the Black people that were there and that people were murdered and they got houses burned down and stole all their stuff. The people who are living in Tulsa had no idea. There's places there's books in the library that people weren't even able to access. And they were taking people's names down. They were trying to read about this. They just got a historical marker there in the 90s, since 1920 something.
All right, Journey to Jasmine says, keeping our insulated economy while doing trade with theirs would have been the better move, which is basically what Dr. Aaron Smith had mentioned earlier. But we should know ATP. I don't know exactly what that, does anybody know what ATP stands for? Because I don't want to be, should know ATP, their plans to keep us as permanent underclass. I don't know what the ATP. Sorry for my ignorance. I don't know what the ATP stands for.
I'll Google it.
Don't know what that. So, and ICE ain't coming for those Chinese either. Okay, gotcha. That's Brooklyn. That's Brooklyn.
Yeah, but China ain't having it.
But yet we select. I'm thinking that is we select that is promoting just leaving the country for better pastures. I guess. Hey, look at the Radio 1 reunion. Y'all preaching, brother. Ben, listen first. Mindset. I got y'all on here, so I'm gonna give you a few questions and then shut up and just listen. When we look at, I want to applaud people because people are trying to do something. They're trying. People are coming together, and social media is trying to be used. I just played a clip of Target losing whatever $1 billion since the boycott. Do you think that's something we should do, Dr. Aaron Smith? And once again, Financial Row, you answered that before, but I want to answer you. Do you think is that something we should do, or do you think there are other things we should do instead of? I know that's a wide range question, but Dr. Smith, what is your opinion?
I say both end, of course. Like Dr. King at Operation Breadbasket, they weren't just marching and singing. They were going to these stores and letting them know, if you don't hire us and if you keep supporting the SEAL Test and all these other companies that don't support Black business, we're going to shut you down, right? We're the public enemy. So there's always been an economic initiative attached to the aesthetic of protest. So we marched and we sang and we had signs. We was also letting people know you're going to lose your business. And even in the Montgomery bus boycott, people walked to work and to school for over 365 days, which ended up resulting in white bus drivers getting fired. And that's when they started waking up and being like, whoa, hitting us in the pockets. So that's an important component, but it's also very important, like some of the people who have been commenting, to start our own. We can't just boycott because eventually people need goods and services. And I remember a famous speech by John Henrik Clarke, the master teacher, said, at least you can make your own underwear. Everybody uses underwear. That's not going to stop. He's making a point. Like, there's just basic ways and things that we all need and we all use, no matter what happens in the economy or with the trends. We're all going to wear socks. We're all going to, like, that's why the morticians are always doing such a good job, because people are always going to die, right? And the funeral homes, stay doing what they do. But I think it's important for us to make sure we make them feel it and recognize, but not so much to make them like us and accept us, make them feel it and recognize, so that when we build our own, they can respect us on an equal level, the way that they do a China or a Russia, or look at other countries and look at the members of those communities as they visit America. And people made a good point. When's the last time you seen a Chinese man getting choked out with a knee on his neck in America? Never.
Financial Rebel, your response
about the boycott?
Yeah, and any suggestions that you would have? Do you think we should continue it? Do you think it's a positive thing, or and what else would you add to it?
So I'm not a fan of boycotts. And let me be clear. We need lifestyle change. When everybody wants to talk about Montgomery, right? They had a lifestyle. They said, all right, we're not dealing with this. Rosa Parks got locked up. They said, we're not going for this. We're not taking your buses anymore. We're not going to feed the economy. And what did they do? They carpooled. They did other things. They said, no, we're not going for this anymore. That was a lifestyle. It wasn't a boycott. Like when I reviewed this, when Pastor Brian talked about this, he announced the time, he announced the date. We are at war. When you're at war, you do not announce things. I understand you have to galvanize and say what's happening. Everything's not meant for social media, y'all. I'm sorry. But if we're really in community, like outside of talking, social media, like actually gathering and being a community, like in Montgomery at that time, you ain't got to do all that. Phones are going off the hook, people are meeting up, and they're making plans. And so it's nuanced. And I know I'm not giving you a yes or no answer.
Right. You don't have to.
I say we need lifestyle. We don't need more boycotts. Listen, here's the thing. Maggie Anderson wrote a wonderful book called Our Black Year, where her family supported Black-owned businesses for a year. And it was a hard thing she had to do. And further, she went and had studies done that said that only 2% of Black dollars go to Black-owned businesses. And if you move that 2 to 10%, that would create 1 million jobs immediately. Do you know how much pushback she got? But forget that. How ridiculous is it that we're only contributing 2% to our Black economy? I think that's wild. I think that's counterproductive. I mean, yes, we know convenience and we're moving further out and things happen, but part of the reason why there are Chinatowns, Little Italies, I was about to say another word that Jesse used to say to describe Jewish people, but they have Jewish areas.
Right.
Because they are intentional about supporting not just Black business, right? Because it's bigger than Black business. They support their institutions. We have to support our institutions as well.
All right, Mr. Worst, the yapper, that's your problem. You try to be the Black community instead of Americans. It's insane. Stay right there,
No,
Mr. Yapper.
no.
I just want y'all to understand this. He's probably one of these bots trolling.
Yeah.
He's been here before.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, never mind.
But there's live trolls too. They don't have to be robots. He was still trolling. Again, to reiterate for people that just came in the room, if you look at the history of America, whether you're watching movies like Gangs of New York or anything else, people built up their communities sometimes by any means necessary, sometimes by extrajudicial means outside of the legal parameters, to make sure that they had an economic foundation so that they can make sure they can advance their communities economically and sustain themselves culturally in a way that they didn't need to beg anybody else or any other communities for approval, and they can make sure that their children had a future in the country. They had no problems being part of the larger diverse demographic that is America, but they made sure that they never lost who they were. And that's coming from somebody who used to live around Germantown in Philadelphia, right? So I understand the importance of people, sustaining their cultural identity, because that's what makes America special. At one point, we used to talk about a melting pot, but then people realized we don't want people to melt and assimilate and all be one. We want people to bring their diversity and their cultural uniqueness to the larger conversation, and that's what makes America special and beautiful. So if you try to just erase your Blackness, you're actually being un-American, because America is built on people with various cultural identities. And if you erase or suppress your cultural identity, you're actually being less American than somebody who recognizes who they are and brings that to the larger American conversation. Wake up.
There was one person, I don't know, and I don't want to misquote the person, said, it might have been DL, it might have been somebody else who said, white people in America, the majority of white people that I know are against white supremacy and are against racism, but they also are against white people not being in charge. So So, so,
That's
so,
good. That's good.
so,
That boy good.
yeah. So in essence, whether you like it or not, you're supporting one thing. This is why I had very basic 1 + 1 = 2. As anybody who wasn't white, how could you vote for a candidate that was also being voted for by the Ku Klux Klan?
Because most people want to be white. A lot of black people, I won't say all, they want to be white, or they want to be closely aligned to the white power structure. And that's part of the problem. And let's go even back. When we look at the Amish, I know because somebody mentioned Amish, when you look at the Germans, when you look at the Jewish, a lot of times they're not trying to be here. They don't care about being American. I mean, they're not here to assimilate. They're not here to integrate per se, right? Using the terms. They're here to take care of their people. Period. That's it.
Right.
They got their own schools, their own banks, their own supermarkets, all the things essential to a community. Some even have their own hospitals. And like even Dr. Umar, everybody could tell you, because we've been saying it for years in this community, what it means to have a community versus a neighborhood. And if you don't have a police station, if you go to Philadelphia, Chinatown, they got their own police station down there where it's, representative of the community, and they understand the language and everything else, how to engage in police effectively. We don't have any police stations. We have very few supermarkets. We have very, very few, if any, hospitals. We don't even got too many hotels anymore. Like, if you don't realize that everybody else has these things or seek to have these things, when they come here with nothing in their pocket, they want their own schools, their own banks, their own hospitals. That is their American dream. We come here, it's like, let's just sit next to the other people and act like we're not black and talk about, talk about being American more when we talk about being African, or like, what kind of spell are we under? I mean, I understand because it's been 300 years of enslavement and we've been made this way. And when people do step out and speak truth to power, they do get killed. So I understand the trauma of buck breaking throughout the generations. I understand that we did build our own towns before anybody even got here, and they were burnt down. They ran highways through, and they did eminent domain on Central Park, which was Seneca Village. And they have countless black towns that are underwater right now, like Lake Lanier, where they just flooded entire black towns that are sitting underwater. I know what happened to us. So I know why we're this blind. I know why we're this scared to be ourselves and affirm ourselves, but I still have to work against it and say, I understand what you've been through, but we still have to fight on.
Go put Ben's first comment, then we'll go to Ben's next, the next comment. So Ben D, I'm immature, pause. Why should a federal government pay out for the sins that happened in the sector it went to war with over such sins? Not to mention the federal government never collected taxes before Civil War. Who wants to take that?
They're still benefiting from those sins. I'm going to assume you're white. You still benefit from the labor of my great-great-great-grandmother and grandfather. And if you can't acknowledge that or recognize that, we really don't have nothing to talk about, because that's not you're not really trying to have a real intellectual conversation.
It's not in good faith. I didn't know if they were talking about Ukraine or Israel and Gaza, or if they were talking about the South. When they said a sector that we weren't even, I said, are they talking about overseas money, or are they talking about, because either way that can apply. People can say, why are we giving billions to the Ukraine? Why are we giving billions to Israel? Why? Like, I didn't know where they were really going with that. So I didn't answer as a result of just my confusion.
Yeah, but people are being intellectually dishonest. And that's a part of the problem that we're having for people that quote unquote care. So. But no, if you really cared, you would say, my brother or sister right next to me don't have food. My brother and sister or across the pond don't have water. It's like Mike said, it's basic math. 1 + 1 is not equal to the math ain't math, yo.
Dr. Smith, how do we rebuild then Black Wall Street? Because if it's for us, by us, and we should be supporting and having our own, like, realistically, is that possible to happen, to recapture that?
And real quick, and Mrs. Smith, once again, 1 + 1 = 2. There is a Black Wall Street. It's called the NBA. But go ahead. Go ahead.
But seriously, I think that less public, and my brother made alluded to this earlier about making these public announcements, right? 48 Laws of Power, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Right? For thousands of years, people have talked about how to have effective military strategies, how to get things done effectively, and things have to operate under a cover. If you think about 9/11 and this whole notion of cells, right? When it's only 3 or 4 people that know what's going on, it's very difficult to attack and to stop a movement that has different units that don't even collaborate or connect or communicate with one another or even know each other exists, right? So even in terms of a family, in a beginning governance structure where it's like you have 3 to 4 people you influence, you can just deal with that and have massive impact on the world generationally. But I think a lot of times people don't understand how other people did it. And there's also this whole notion of we need to follow all the rules like everybody else did, not realizing they didn't follow these rules. Dr. King made a point to let people know they had land grants and land grant colleges. They were paying farmers not to farm. They were paying county agents to help them learn how to farm. They were moving black people off of their farms. Like they got it handed to them. The Homestead Act, right? The Headright program where people were getting 50 acres just to make the trip from Europe. The Marshall Plan, we gave billions of dollars to Europe after they had a war, right? So these people are welfare babies, DE&I recipients. They're the main ones that had access to everything. The 49ers was called the 49ers because they cleared off all the indigenous people and let the white people just run and claim stuff by putting flags in the ground. These same people turn around, like Dr. King said, and tell us to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. So we look at somebody, a numbers runner back in the day, or even a drug dealer today, and instead of like KRS-One was saying in that song about drug dealer, go open up a store, right? Instead of just redirecting that energy and that financial initiative, we look at them like they're the complete ops because they've done something that the other people didn't do, not realizing the biggest thieves in the world are the ones that stole the whole country and stole your ancestors, but now they worry about you stealing a beer or stealing some chips or selling weed.
Wow. Put Dre's comment back up, and then we'll run through these comments. Dre says, they cracked me up with that question. You didn't participate in slavery. You didn't participate in World War II or the Trail of Tears.
Facts.
Go to the next one.
Can you go to, wait a minute, can we go to TC?
What?
TC above. He made a great comment about redlining.
Redlining literally stopped new developments, allowing areas of the community to deteriorate.
So that's correct and a bit incorrect too, but I want to make this clear. The man asked, why should the government pay for sins? Redlining's one. Ta-Nehisi Coates won a wonderful book about reparations. And it wasn't just about enslavement. It was about what happened after enslavement, what happened during Jim Crow, what happened during Reconstruction, right? Let's look at redlining. Nobody talks about this. But every neighborhood we call a hood, black side we're talking, that was all created by redlining. Having overpopulated people in these neighborhoods and the housing stocks where they wouldn't give mortgages, where they wouldn't give insurance. So when something happened, we could never rebuild. That was a government policy. There are deeds that say in Philadelphia and across the country, you cannot sell this land to black people.
Racial covenant.
So when you talk about the responsibility of government, if black people are truly Americans, by the way, everybody should go look at the case, Plessy versus Ferguson. But if black people are really citizens of this state, this United States, then we must make those people who were damaged whole again financially. That never happened. So to answer your question, go do some research, my human brother, because I don't think you're black. But again, go look at redlining. Everybody, a lot of our kids are pledging allegiance to the streets. Now I'm talking to black folks. The streets, the quote unquote streets, were created by redlining.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then they make it so black people can't get jobs. They make it so black people have to go to the underworld, which we're talking about. And I agree. We don't have to do everything by the book, but we got to know the book so we can beat the book. But you got to understand what's going on and how we got here so we can chart that path forward.
I think there was one, and then we're not going to focus too much on these, but Ben said, what are his benefits of being white? I don't know where it is. White people don't think about
this one.
What are the ways I benefit by just being white? I'll let y'all.
You can
like,
be
are we doing this? Like,
again, but go ahead.
Like again, and let me say this though: 2025, in the age of Chat GPT, we have officially, as a people, we have resigned our responsibility to educate white people about racism, and we have assigned that task to Google and Chat GPT and your local library, especially black women. We are no longer hereby responsible in 2025 of educating anyone who cannot recognize the realities of racism. If they don't see it, then focus on the people that do see it. Everybody else, Chat GPT, your local library. I am not your boy. I am not your savior. I am not your teacher. If you can't see what I'm seeing at this point, Keep it pushing, keep it moving. I will not be trolled and distracted. I'm on point and on a mission.
I have a set that I do on stage, which I don't know how long I can do it, but I'll be doing it for a while. Where I said, when a white person asked me to explain the symbolisms in Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show, I tell them I act naive and I say there were. And then I asked them, well, what did you see? Because I just saw him. He was just a rapper rapping. And then, curiously enough, they will bring up the symbolisms. So my point is, you saw it. You saw exactly what was going on. And if you didn't, social media gave you 6,000, 100,000 examples of what was going on. But you want me to now decode this for you. Almost like you're trying to bamboozle me into thinking that me and you are cool because you're interested in the symbolisms. I'm not here to, and in a very basic way, what Dr. Smith said, I'm not here to decode this for you anymore. Yapper said, I'm concerned about any.
That's so disingenuous.
Well, keep being concerned. Next.
Yeah, next. Put the next one up.
If you're really concerned,
this is a serious thing, y'all. When people troll, there's a big thing about centering whiteness in black conversations and spaces.
Yep, that's a fact.
And they always, and like Mike said, they'll even use the Trojan horse of curiosity to realign the conversation around their ignorance, guilt, or need to know more, which results in black people continuing to serve them in an educative capacity, as opposed to just sit back and listening and allowing black people to center themselves in their own conversations, in their own spaces for their own personal benefit and interest, and just be a spectator like you're supposed to when you're not part of the center of a conversation. They interject themselves in the conversation, and sometimes they know that they'll be rebuffed if they come with that tough talk, so they come saying, I just got a question. I'm just curious. I'm just concerned. Get out the way. We picked your game. You're not slick.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. That's the whole gist of what I wrote. What was that?
Yeah, you got to expose them. You're trying to play. People play dumb. If we were going to court right now and you could pick any avatar to represent you, we all picking blonde hair, blue-eyed, Natalie Holloway looking, missing in Cuba in 1990. Nobody's picking Green Mile, 300-pound black man. Like, we all know that people are treated differently based on how they look. The likelihood of you bringing a baby to term, and the likelihood of being shot by the police, likelihood of you having your resume thrown in the trash based on your name. Like, everybody knows this stuff. Like, that's why I say that we're not doing this stupid stuff with devils no more. Once you do that, you proven that you are of your father, the devil. Only thing I got for you is to rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You are evil. You are of your father, the devil the Bible speaks of.
Doctor, that's what I excuse me.
I'm sure you're Black Jesus, right?
Black Jesus. like I say, there's only one kind unless you're watching Fox News, right? And there's a deep part too. I remember when I was first talking to my teacher, Dr. Malefe Kete Sante, right? Famous for Afrocentricity, right? And he was just letting me know about just the chronology. He said, you got to start with chronology. There was a time where, according to geography, the continents were together. They talk about Pangea. There was a time where only black people were on the planet. How do we get dinosaurs and Flintstones and cavemen and all this other nonsense where, according to their science, according to their biology, Mendel with the genetic recessive and dominant traits and how you can get the recessive from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from recessive. You came from us. So if you don't know about us, you don't even know your human history. If you want to talk about humanity and all one human family, then you got to start with that black origin and that black root. And until you can deal with the fact that your great ancestors were black, then leave me out the conversation and go wake up. Because if your great-great-great-grandmother came to your neighborhood right now and tried to say, I got in a time machine, you probably shoot her, lynch her, or chase her out the neighborhood. So you're blind to the reality of the commonality of humanity. So where the real humans are the ones that see that when I see a Chinese person, I know what the Khoi and the San people. When I see an Indian person, I know about the Jawara people, the first Indians. I know about how they look black. I know about Nelson Mandela not having Chinese eyes, but Chinese people having the eyes. I understand that you all come from us, so there's no hate. You're all my cousins. You're all the children of that black Eve gene that only black women have. We're all one people in one family. But when you look at the origins and they get too brown, that's when people start talking about Darwin and monkeys and evolution and nonsense. So until you can get off the nonsense with your fake pseudoscience and come to the real table where we're having a real full human conversation, don't start talking that American pseudo-patriotic BS just to get closer to white power and white privilege.
Go back to Brooklyn. Go. Hold up. You might not be familiar with this drop, Fearless, and you might not get it, Dr. Aaron Smith. I'm sorry, but this is what you just did right now.
Shout out to Brooklyn. He said, read.
White
Jacob
people,
have I loved, but Esau have I hated.
Brooklyn, who was one of our
Brooklyn
started. When Brooklyn started checking with us, like a few weeks ago, maybe a month.
Shouts out to the good brother.
Yeah.
Brooklyn has been one of our all of us, all you guys. From you already know how much I love Miss Parker, Miss Clark, Don Page, Stacy Mitch, everybody. But Brooklyn, white people getting called the devil this morning, and it wasn't from me. Y'all been listening to us crazy Israelites. Brooklyn, you're spot on with that, Brooklyn.
And they got some black people called in. That's why I would say you're of your father the devil. It's works you're gonna do. People, even when the Nation of Islam were talking about devilishment, they were talking about a behavior and a nature.
Correct.
Anybody can adopt this nature. There can be brown devils, black devils, white devils. They were very clear on that. But when people don't want the discipline and the uplift and the do for self message of the Nation of Islam to go forward, then they try to polarize it and mischaracterize it and say, oh, he hates white people, call white people devils to be separatists. No. When I say devils, I mean them black people, that's the bootlicking coons. I mean the Latinos for Trump. I'm talking about everybody who does the work of Shaitan, everybody. But typically, people who subscribe to white supremacy and white privilege and white Euro dissidents and try to act like they don't know, even though they know just darn well that's the dominant portion of that demographic, unfortunately, in these conversations.
I gotta say something.
Go
Make
get
sure
it,
y'all
get
go
it.
to Michael Shaw on the Takeover Legends. Subscribe. Go to YouTube. Hit subscribe. I see a lot of different people in here, so go ahead and support.
Go to YouTube and subscribe right now, y'all. Right now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I gotta say something. This is the importance of college, y'all. Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you.
Oh yeah, go to college. Oh, and I was just saying recently, all my brothers and sisters went to predominantly white colleges. I had a major revelation in the past few years, and I wrote an article recently that's coming out this year about how imperative it is for us to support. And this is even before Trump started shutting down all this education stuff. That try to set up your segue, Jay. That we should support black colleges, right? I went to Temple University.
Shout out to you.
I know people that didn't go to college. I wrote an article talking about how vital it is for all black people, like my brother was talking about a lifestyle change, that we all support our institutions. So no matter what school you went to, if you didn't go to school at all, you need to recognize historically and even in the contemporary context how important and vital black schools are. Because I'm hoping that one thing Trump is doing right now is causing a wake-up call. So all you people that say, oh, the facilities are better. I love what Deion Sanders and his son is doing, right? Proving that if you good, you good, right? And I hope that our engineers and our lawyers and our doctors and our veterinarians realize even the facts of black schools produce more black lawyers, more black veterinarians, more black doctors than most of these white universities combined, right? So once people realize that HBCUs, at least for us, is one of those answers where we don't have to center white curiosity, white guilt, or white fear, and we can just have conversations. Because right now, there's young black men who can't get a job, who got a felony. There's sisters who had miscarriages but don't know how to talk about it. There's black women who are 100 times more likely to not be able to bring their baby to term. Twice as likely to have their babies die trying to have a baby than white people. There's a great study that a white man showed that said African women were on par with white women when they did their study, but African women, after they moved to America, after one generation, were on par with the black women in America. There is something unique about black American racism that destroys life. And we need to deal with that, and not some white curiosity, disingenuous, bad.
Oh, man. Time has flown by.
What do you say now?
How do we unite? How do we, if Black Wall Street, how do we get back to these days where we're supporting each other and not trying to, I don't want to give them the money, because we do hold our people to a higher standard that maybe we don't hold the YT to. You know, we expect more. We expect the hook up. We do. If we being honest, we do. Come on, look out. You, the white man, whatever their price is, you pay them.
The white man's ice is colder.
Colder.
I hate that saying, but listen, we got to eradicate Willie Lynch.
But how do we rally though? That's what I'm trying to get to. How do we move that needle? Like I said, I like the Target boycott because it's like we're trying to unify for something.
Because it's easy. And that's
it's easy, but it should have an outcome that we're looking for.
You know what's harder? It's saying, you know what? So I'm gonna tell you a great story. There's a buddy of mine named Fred. Used to distribute kidney oil. Everybody remembers kidney oil back in the
day. Yeah.
Get it from some Asian folks.
Right.
His nationality. He said when he would go eat with them, they would go out of their way to go to a Korean or Chinese restaurant. They weren't talking about the inconvenience of going there. We are worried about the inconvenience. So again, it's a lifestyle. That was their lifestyle. I know it's not sexy. I don't talk as good as Dr. Smith.
No,
You
no,
spot on.
no.
I just
But you're
call it
spot
crisis
on,
of
yeah.
consciousness.
Correct.
Because that's what I was taught by Karangi Malama and Asante. We gotta get on the same page. But continue, brother.
But what we have to do is we got to be black first, and we got to recognize we black first. And I know that y'all don't realize that is a solution, but it is, because in our minds, if we think we're inferior to the dominant society, so-called dominant society, we're always going to look for a handout. We're never going to look within and say, you know what, I can do that too. Even though we've created just about all the goddamn inventions that we use today. So where do we start? I know we need tangible things. Go support black-owned businesses. I'm doing a cash mob March 8th. I've been doing cash mobs. I talked about a cash mob that helps support House Bookstore, the oldest black-owned bookstore in Philadelphia, years ago, right? So that was one of the things I'm most proud of, all right? That's actionable. What is a cash mob? Get 20 people together. Go find a black-owned business. Yes, a black-owned business. Ones that believe they're black, by the way, y'all. Get 20 friends together. Y'all spend $20 a piece. Whether it's books, whether it's food. The one I'm doing on March 8th is at a restaurant called the Breakfast Boutique, Falls Boutique off of Kelly Drive. What are we going to do? We're going to gather at least 20 friends. We're going to do a podcast episode about protecting legacy. Y'all know I just lost my father. There's a lot of things that went wrong there in the transfer of his stuff that he built. We're going to teach that. So it's about doing things, y'all, but doing them purposefully, doing them in community,
Right.
doing them in brotherhood, and doing them in love, not just for a fucking dollar. Excuse my language. And a lot of times y'all say, well, Kamar, you're the finance rebel. You talk about money. I do. But I always talk about money with a purpose. When you look at real communities, if you look at the Jews, when you look at the Chinese, when you look at all these other groups who do things, they use money as a tool, not their God. A lot of times we've elevated money to God status, and it should not be. We need to demote money back to what it is, just a tool, and elevate ourselves where the Most High wants us to be.
And financial, I want to give you your props. And Jay, this is what I mean about holding people to a higher standard. I think we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Finance Rebel will get on social media and blatantly tell you, if you're trying to get over, don't come to me.
Yes.
Now, I know I'm paraphrasing. If you're trying to get over, don't come. I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to dig deep into, we're going to try and get over and put my position in
Well, it's
jeopardy.
not getting over because Trump said it. The systems are there in place. He's taking advantage
Well,
of it.
I don't want to talk about Trump. I don't want to talk.
No, what
I
I'm
want
saying
to.
is, going in for taxes,
I'm
it's
not-
not about getting over it. I want to get every benefit that I can get when getting my taxes done. When
No,
Amari's doing,
stop. He's a fucking criminal, man.
Yeah.
We don't need to align ourselves, idolize, or look at criminals, period. One reason why. Two, it's wrong. One is wrong. Two, they put us in jail more than anybody else. Go and look at all these goddamn PPP loans. They did the same thing a lot of these white boys did. Who's going to jail more? Listen, you got to know the book in order to break the book. I just came up with that today, y'all. I don't know. But you got to know the rules in order to break the rules, right? You have to understand that we are at war. Number one, we are at war. Money, food, environment, jail, all of that. Then you got to move accordingly. And stop acting like white folks like us. They don't. They never have. Yes, and I have white friends, right? And I will say this to them. But when you look at the larger context of things, they're always after black bodies. That's all I'll say.
And what I meant to say by that is that, and listen, I've been guilty of this myself. If Financial Rebel tells me, listen, this is what you're going to get on your taxes, and I'm telling you we're going to do it like this, then somebody else says, I'm going to get you 5,000 more, but we're going to push the limits on this and we're going to see what happens. We have a tendency to go with the person who's going to push the limits on it and get the $5,000 and look at the other person who goes to Financial Rebel and say, you dumb. Why would you go to him? Because he knows the book and he knows the jeopardy that you're putting yourself in, even if you get away with it this time.
Can I tell you a quick story, Mike?
Go ahead.
So a lot of our quote unquote brothers and sisters in blue would go to a person that would get them a bigger refund. I lost a lot of clients to them. This is a personal story for me. One of them was my family member, by the way. What happened was the person they went to wound up getting audited by the IRS. And when the IRS audits a tax preparer, they audit a lot of their clients. And they're like, oh, damn it. Why did I go with these people? Because you was being greedy. Because you fell for the trick. Same thing happened in the crack epidemic, right? We fell for the trick. We fell for the trick of money. We fell for the trick of greed. Ignore greed. Stick to purpose, y'all. And listen, you can be very, very intentional about reducing your tax bill. But it takes strategy. It takes planning. It doesn't happen during tax season. You work on it all year round. So to Jay's point where he wants to talk about, I'm not going to use the word Dr. Aaron, because I don't want to get my channel demonetized, because we're at war with these folks. You can legally reduce your tax bill by simply understanding the rules and then using those rules. And then hopefully you take those monies, reinvest in your business, hire more Black people, fund more Black institutions, and make this thing bigger and better.
I want to thank you guys, Financial Rebel. Thank you, Dr. Aaron Smith. Thank you. Everybody's asking for a part 2. If we can get y'all busy schedules and we can get y'all in here, I will tell you this, and I'm not just saying this because you two are on here, and I'm not trying to gas the situation. This has been the highest viewed show we've had since probably we had a celebrity like Johnny Gill years ago. But this, for the last year and a half, this has been the most viewed show, and I'm sure the numbers will increase even more. And it's not about that, but I'm trying to put it out there that people are interested in these conversations.
You want to hear it. Yeah.
People are interested in these conversations. I thank each and every person who has commented. I thank you guys for watching. I will definitely try and get these 2 individuals who we are friends to get them back. But understand, they're busy working, people. They're busy working, and they're busy putting their blueprint and footprint on everything that goes on in their family and in the culture and in the community.
But let me say one thing, Mike. Because on that note, I want to be clear. I love going to Temple, and there's this room for people to fight on these PWI fronts. I do believe, though, that you're only successful when you take what you've learned and come back to the community and those that poured into you. Otherwise, you're just achieving. You're not succeeding. So what I've grown to understand in the last few years, especially in this process of trying to get tenure and all this stuff and seeing racism at every level, at some point I have to take my own advice and say, well, you have the skills and you've gotten everything you can get from these spaces. Your responsibility now is to go back and build up institutions for yourself so you don't have to beg or worry or wonder. So I've been intentional about making myself far more available in the past few weeks and months than I have in the past few years, just because of certain revelations I've had personally. And I'm putting that into practice even in terms of education, because I'm not going to sit there and keep promoting Temple, because after I'm done at Temple, like even Dame Dash would say back in the day, my son can't work at Temple. Right. But my son might be able to intern for the Takeover Legends Incorporated when they have a business and building downtown, because I was there at the foundation of it and helped build it up. And we have to start thinking long-term and generationally, and really start thinking that we have the capability and have trust and respect for ourselves, and not just think about the quick money like we were talking about the taxes, and think about, legacy. So no, I'm available, because I'm making sure I'm making an intentional shift toward, I can't name but 5 people that really handed me money, especially without asking. Mike is on that list.
Right.
Mike is like, hey, man, you need a couple dollars. Okay. Most people in my life have taken money from me, cost me money. So anybody who's given me opportunity, Jay Black and Raphael let me sleep on the floor when I was driving the other intern up there and my car couldn't make it back and forth. And I wanted to stay out the neighborhood because the last time I was there, I got arrested when we was at the other building. And Jay was like, you've been gone for a week. I thought you got locked up. And I said, I did, right? So anybody that keeps you out of trouble and keeps you out of jail and gives opportunities to your people and hands you money, if you talking all that pro-Black stuff, then even though somebody else might be able to give me that extra $5,000, and corporations give I ain't gonna say what they pay when I go talk for even, you know, but you got to think long term. Do I just keep standing in front of them, entertaining them, or do I pull a Kendrick Lamar and think about lasting legacy and making an imprint that could shift culture instead of just making sure that I play all the hits and smile and skin and grin because I can get a little more money in the moment?
My God. Listen, y'all, to all our original watchers and viewers, you know the love we got from, like I said, Miss Parker, Stacey Mitchell, Don Page, Coco,
Shout out to Woke Up Inspired too. Shout out
and to Woke Up Inspired. If you want to get your hoodies, sweatshirts, you want to get your t-shirts. If you want something customized, you'll have to actually get in touch. Lady Q, it's wokeupinspired.com, wokeupinspired.com. This has been an amazing show. We will do it again. As I close, love me for who I am, not who you want me to be, because I can never be that. Understand there's only one thing in life that's guaranteed. It will end. So enjoy every minute, every second. You fight for everything in your life. You fight for parking spots. You fight for the code to your girl's cell phone. Fight for your happiness. Never let anyone or any circumstance take it from you. From Michael Sean, Jay Black, Sexy Mo, C Chung, my man, Dr. Aaron Smith. I'm going to call him Fearless one time for your mind. Financial Rebel, we are gone. Well, then go on then.
Michael Sean and the Takeover Legend, where the truth hurts, but also makes you